Ooh, I do look cold out here.
You don't look cold. You look
Really?
super comfortable. Welcome here, everybody. This is Teach Outdoors Minnesota, our weekly workshop, and we're going to be learning about snow today, teaching in snow. And Emily is, as you can see, directly out there in the snow, all ready for us, which is just really great. Thanks for being here, Emily. So I'm going to let
Yeah,
a
happy
few
to be.
more people in. It looks like there's a few who are just still joining us. But what I want everybody to know is that today is all about snow and teaching in snow, so a variety of things. And if you have specific questions, please type them into the chat. And what will happen is that Emily will probably answer them all before we even get to you asking them for real. So that's kind of the goal, maybe. But if she misses something, we can call her on it later, or anybody else in our crew. And those of you who are new to Teach Outdoors Minnesota workshops, that this is a community of teachers who love teaching outdoors and want to be able to share with each other. Really, that's what this is. And so this is a great opportunity. I want to say one last thing is that I'm recording this. Sometimes I forget if I've said something. So I said this already, I apologize, but we're recording this and we're going to be putting this on the website. Anna is going to be putting it on the website for us, as well as some resources that Emily gives us about teaching in the snow. And I'll tell you what, if you have any amazing resources, put those in the chat too, and we will be sure to get those to Anna, and Anna will populate the website with all the amazing resources that we get. And so you can be sure if you have a friend who is missing this, that they'll be able to access it on the website. So my name is Joe Valevsky. I'm a naturalist at Wolf Ridge. And today we are joined by Emily Delfosse, who's out in the snow, going to be teaching us about snow. And I suspect that there's so many different things that she wants to share that I should probably stop babbling and pass it on to her. Emily, who are you and what are you going to do?
Oh, my name is Emily, and I am a mentor naturalist here at Wolf Ridge. Joe is in this building. He's being my Zoom wizard today. So if my face kind of starts scrunching up, it's because it's getting a little bit windy out here and the snow's blowing a bit. But my job at Wolf Ridge is I teach students that come here. I am kind of working on some different personal projects. I work on mentoring the first year naturalists that are here. And I am a licensed teacher. I went to UMD. I'm teaching kind of as I call it my quarter life crisis, coming here outside of the classroom for a couple of years. But my license is 5.8 general science, 9.12 life science, and that's my plug. If anyone knows of a job in the Duluth area this fall, I'm available. But yeah, I'm here to teach about snow today, which is really awesome because we have plenty of it up here. And my Zoom wizard should have my PowerPoint ready to go because I have my phone right now on a tripod. Perfect. So there's us again, Joe and Emily, tag team in this here today. And on my first slide here, that's your cue, Joe. Yeah, nice. we rehearsed this very well. So I wanted to start out with some background here. I know some people migrate up to this area from other parts of the world, but you can see on our map where Minneapolis is down there and then all the way up here at Wolf Ridge. We are pretty up the North Shore on Lake Superior. But the data I grabbed here is from Minneapolis, being that the snowy period lasts for an average of 177 days of the year. So for almost literally half of the year, there's snow here in Minnesota. And that average snow total there in Minneapolis, just around 20 inches a year. And the cool thing is we have all of this snow half of the year, and we should be able to utilize it. Because if you are all into going outside only when it's nice out, you're going to be missing out on half of your year. So our goal here today is to kind of look at some of the content bits of snow to learn about it, and then also things that you could go out possibly tomorrow and go do with your students outside. And at the bottom there, we've got a couple breaking records of a maximum snowfall in a 24-hour period and then a single snowstorm. And Wolf Ridge is pretty proud of those because we have both of those records back from 94. Those snow totals come from up here. So we are no strangers to the snow here. And then getting into this bit here, Joe was prepping us for what is to come, because the National Weather Service is telling us that February is going to come starting here in a way that really gets you excited to be outside. We're supposed to be getting a lot of snow and some frigid temperatures. So hopefully some stuff here today can maybe get you excited about bringing those kids outside to the start of February, or at least getting yourself outside, I guess. So getting into it here, Zoom wizard. Very nice. We have this fun little picture. So this is what we're looking at here, a snow profile. So this is kind of my content-y bit about snow. And on this picture, it's showing a cross section of a bank of snow. And you can see that it's labeled with all the different layers there. And this is a snow profile. So what we can do is we can go outside with a shovel and we can make this snow profile by cutting off a bit of snow. Now, normally with kids, I might go in this open field behind me and have them dig themselves out a nice hole, but this one was perfectly made for me already on the path. I just cut into a little bit because our maintenance guys are so great to us. And as we're looking on there, you see that on the bottom, there's some little critters down there. And those little critters are in our subnivean zone. So what happens with snow is, as we know, heat rises, and where the ground meets the snow actually stays a bit warmer. And as that warmth travels up through the snow, it causes some of the snow to melt. Eventually, it gets to a point where the temperature is no longer being a factor and it stops melting. And that's where we hit that ice lens on there. Now, what's cool is we can take our shovel, dig through the snow, and we can try to find that ice lens. I've got some popsicle sticks here. And as we go through the snow, if I just look at it, or if I look at it and touch it, I can tell the different spots where it starts to change. So here, I can tell that it's still about the same bit of snow up until about right there. I think a different layer starts there based on how easy it is for me to push it into the snow. And I keep going. When it gets about softer right here. And then softer up here. Now, since I have my snow plowed snowbank here up along the side of the building, I'm kind of at a drift here, so it's a weird spot. But out in the snow here, our students can come up with evidence-based explanations on the different snowfalls that we've gotten throughout the season so far. Now, based on that bottom layer with all that warming and refreezing, they might have a trouble like missing out on some snowstorms. But what's cool is that throughout this, they can tell the story of our winter so far. And I really like that evidence-based explanation part. They can tell us, oh, based on this, it looks like we've had 3 snowstorms because of the 3 layers. Which is pretty nice. And I've got on the next one a picture of another snow profile. Oh, unless Joe is chiming in there, but there's another bit of shoveled out snow. And what you're looking for is going from the top all the way down to the bottom until they reach the ground. That way we should be able to see where that ice lens is forming. And then our next one has this in action. Students going up there, putting in those popsicle sticks. If you don't have popsicle sticks, I have plenty of trees out here I could have snapped sticks off of, but these work pretty well, especially if you have some multicolored ones. And then that chart is just telling about how we can be doing the hardness of the snow, seeing where the levels change. All right, so we've got a snow profile. Another thing we can do with snow is check it out. We can build some, sorry, there's a bird I was looking at. Oh. That's the problem of teaching outside on a Zoom call, Joe. You'd be all over that. So snow here, we can also use snow as structures. So this seemingly pile of snow with signs on it is just yonder from me here, and it is a quinzee that we built. So all the naturalists, one day we went outside with shovels. We spent like an hour building and packing this snow pile, and then a week later we started digging it out. And we use this for one of our classes to show what snow can be used for as structures. We use it in our Ojibwe heritage class talking about a seasonal lifestyle, but a quinzee is totally an awesome thing to build, talking about the structures of snow, uses for it. And the next picture is what we've got working with this year. There's a column in the quinzee. So he who digs out the quinzee chooses the structure. All right, snowflake shapes. This one is pretty cool because it's fairly new to me. Usually when I think of snow, I have a pretty standard snowflake that I draw, you know, the line, 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 done. That's my snowflake. But looking at these snowflake shapes really kind of makes you think more about what you're seeing when snow is falling. Snowflake shapes are based on temperature and humidity. And when we have warmer, wetter conditions, that's when we're going to get these really intricate snowflake shapes. There is a chart here and a graph looking at kind of the difference between when you're going to get the shapes based on, like I said, the temperature and the humidity. Basically, they were looking at, we've got plates, needles, we've got the dendrites, and then over on the other ones, a couple more shapes. But what Joe's going to do is he's going to throw in the chat a chart for us here, because we can observe one of my favorite cross-cutting concepts, patterns.
Excellent. So here's one of the problems here, which maybe you've been noticing, is that I have been struggling with trying to get over to my place. I was trying to find a way to get there. So I'm going to have to stop for a second.
Okay.
And get what I want. I'm going to put something in the chat, and I'd love it if everybody would be able to open up this document. Let's see if I can do this now. See if I can get it. Everyone in the meeting.
Joe's Zoom wizard skills are improving.
They're improving, but not good enough. Oh my gosh, I can't seem to get it in there like I normally do. Got a little chart. What I'm gonna maybe ask, since I can't get that to work right now, is maybe if I ask Patience, why don't you tell us another little story while I try to get to something else where I can get that link and send that to everybody.
Tell us a little story, he says. Okay, well, the pictures he's going to show you are taken by Joe, and he has like the best camera around here. You may wonder why I'm nervous having him as the Zoom wizard. Joe doesn't have a cell phone, doesn't carry one around with him, but he always carries this little camera. And when Joe is observing teaching here, especially, he tends to get the best pictures. Last week, he was watching a birds class in like a snowstorm, and that's where a couple of these pictures come from, because he is a big fan of checking out what's on your sleeve. That's the benefit of the black jackets, I guess. Blue jackets, nice solid colors. When those snowflakes are coming down, you can check them out. And his camera's got that like ultra zoom where you can see these shapes really well. And our goal right now is to check out some of those pictures.
Yeah. So I put in a link, and if you can click on that link, it'll take you to a website that has the document that is on the right, the patterns. And it's just a matter of looking at that, and we're going to kind of play with this. So I'm going to advance, and that I took this picture with my camera, and this was just last week, just as Emily said, as the snow was falling. And what was super fun is that over the course of the snowstorm, I was able to see the snowflakes changing, and that change in the snowflakes gave me a little information as to how how the temperatures way up in the atmosphere and how the moisture level was changing as well. And that you're going to get this document that has the other charts so that you can start to interpret that about if the snowflake is changing because of temperature or because of moisture. But just for funsies, we're going to try to figure out what these snowflakes are called. Now, I'll give you an opportunity to do that. So this is one of those as you're looking at that. I'm curious, Anna or Kiana or Danielle, I can see you. Are you able to get the link and then also able to kind of look at that and get a sense of what it might be? Excellent. That's what I'm looking for. Excellent. I'm not going to make anybody say what they are, but just a way to play with it. And then let's see if I can get to the next one. Here's the next picture. And this is from the same snowstorm, a little bit different. This is a little bit later in the snowstorm. Weather conditions were changing, and I could tell not only because of what I felt, but I was watching it change with the snowflakes. And the way that I take these pictures is that I'll catch it on a mitten or on my coat, you know, like on my sleeve right here. And then I'll take my camera, which I've got right here, and I hold it against my arm so that I've got it. If I try to hold it away, then I wobble, both my arm and the camera and everything, and then it turns out blurry. But if I take my camera and literally put it right there, right next to it, against my arm, and then focus, so then I half click to focus, it's amazing how close you can get. Emily, it's not me at all. It is just a camera that's making this happen.
Too bad I didn't get that information last week. I'd win the photo contest for winter here at Wolfridge.
I like to share my tricks after photo contests. So there's another snowflake, and you can also see that on the right-hand side, there's pieces of snowflakes. So we're breaking off or forming differently. So you can start to see in that chart the different types of snowflakes. This is really fun. I was wearing a totally different jacket. And that one essentially is evidence that there was a ton of moisture and it was not very windy up where the snowflakes were forming. If it was windier, it would not have been able to form such intricate patterns on this. So again, that can tell us a little bit about the conditions up in the atmosphere. And I put this in here because I wanted to give you a sense that when you take these pictures, that your coat might not look like it has all kinds of threads in it, but that's the sleeve of my coat. And I swear it doesn't have any threads. It's just magical coat. But when I take a close-up picture, I can see all the threads. That's pretty cool. And I was able to get a little tool to be able to measure by the millimeters and get a sense of how many threads per millimeter. And that what I figured was that it was about 3.5 or so threads per millimeter. I think that's my memory going off of that. So that then I could, rather than measure the snowflakes with the measuring tool, I just measure it by looking at the threads in the picture. That was
Joe,
fun.
does your little tool there have a name?
It has a name. Let's see. It's right here.
Mint tool?
And its name is, Minute Tool. Huh. I have no idea. It's super tiny. Here it is. It's in this little container. But anyway, we're going on. Oh, look at this. See if you can identify this kind of a snowflake. And then I will just tell you, as I was talking to Emily, I was trying to find a variety of snowflakes. I couldn't find any needles. Apparently, I'm less interested in taking pictures of needles, and you can see that there are needles on there, but we get a lot of those. And clearly I need to up my game here and get pictures of needles as well. But you can take pictures of snowflakes and get a sense of that as well. We wanted to have that in here for you.
And as your students are maybe outside taking pictures of snowflakes and across your class, you're like, man, we're seeing all this cool stuff. I wish we could save this. Well, Wolfridge Naturalist here by the name of Peter Harris has this very cool toolbox that we use. So the picture on the very left-hand side there is this box here, my fishing tackle box. And it always sits outside the Science Center in the winter because we want it to stay cold. And on a snowy day, what you can do is take one of these polyethylene sheets. I've got one in this pocket. So they look like this, kind of like a Polaroid picture if it was clear. And what we did was we took it and sprayed it with some lacquer. And we sprayed it and then let it sit for a little bit. And then what we did was, well, it wasn't snowing here yesterday, so we took some snow and threw it up. And we caught it on the sheet here. Now, we let it sit outside for a little bit, but if you were to bring it inside after it has stuck to that, what you could do is then look at it maybe on an overhead projector or with a microscope and compare the different snowflakes your class is seeing if there is patterns across the class, maybe different times of the day, if it's a really big snowy day, but it's a pretty cool way to save snowflakes. Yeah. Does work better if you catch one, because right here we took snow and just went and yeah, if there's a lot of stuff on here. So I think that's my content bit, and now looking at kind of, oh yes, things we can do in our classrooms to utilize the snow a little bit more. So this is the Science Center at Wolf Ridge. On this deck I'm looking at right here, my tripod is kind of frozen to my foam pad right now, so I'm gonna leave it sitting here. But we have a snow monitoring station. So at Wolf Ridge at 7 o'clock in the morning, every morning, someone comes out here and checks the weather for us. And we are a National Weather Service monitoring station. So that data gets brought into the National Weather Service, but we have this snow monitoring station here where we collect daily snowfall and our snowfall total. As of right now, or I guess 7 o'clock this morning, our snowfall total here, we've got 24 inches currently on the ground in this spot. And it's really nice that we have it blocked off like that, so no kids going to and from the dorms here end up trampling it. But this is a really great way to be talking with your students about weather patterns, tracking the snowfall. It's a great classroom citizen science project if you want to be doing the data year to year, seeing how snowfall is changing. And I thought it would be really fun to be able to share this at maybe your morning meetings with the school, being able to post it, how much snow, because I feel like this is one of the things that people like really get excited about snow, or people that know that I work up here. One of the most common questions I get asked from people back home is, well, how much snow do you guys have up there? So I always like looking at either the station outside or to the notebook we have inside to be looking at the snowfall totals. And the next one. So this is a idea I had being with one of our new science standards, is looking at cause and effect for our cross-cutting concepts. And a really easy thing to do with students is talking about the snow kind of in a, if we do this, then what will happen situation. So what we can do is have students make predictions inside the classroom about what might happen to snow if different things are done to it. And I put on there, maybe we add salt to the snow, baking soda, toothpaste, I don't know, anything you want. But what we could do is make our predictions, go outside, get our snow, try to come up with explanations based on what actually happened. And what's cool about this too is it could happen either outside, you can bring the snow inside, you could do it over a couple days, many days. So it's really open-ended, but it gets students interacting with snow, with things outside, and usually comes into play the idea of the salt and dirt of ways of melting the snow. Can talk about leading that into groundwater, things like that, based on things we do to the roads. So one conversation can lead to another. With my compare and contrast snow in different locations. So at Wolf Ridge, we've got 2,000 acres here. There is so many different spots that we could look at snow that could be so different from each other. But in a school, you could maybe go from one side of your building to another side. Maybe you're looking at shady spots, spots that have a lot of trees, and compare the snow there. We could be looking for stability and change as we're looking at the difference between the snow, or comparing and contrasting the snow at different times. So maybe the snow in January compared to the snow in, well, let's see, up here, the snow in late April, maybe early May. Again, we can be trying to come up with those evidence-based explanations for the differences we're seeing. So maybe I have this really grainy snow on the side of the building that gets a lot of sun. What kind of explanation can we come up with for that? This has got to be one of my favorites, though, because one of my favorite things to do with kids at Wolfridge is to go wander in the snow and see what we can find. So if you're trying to get some more writing styles into your classroom, or letting that creativity that all these kids have really show, snow is an awesome storyteller. So if you go outside, try to find any kind of animal tracks. Students can come up with a story of what the animal was doing when the tracks were made, before the tracks were made, where did they go after, and that can either range from a very scientific explanation to a way out there story. I know the one picture I have on the left there, a couple naturalists and I were at, excuse me, Crosby Manitou State Park 2 months ago now, and we watched a snowshoe hare just bolt by us, where we had to like step off the path a little bit and come to turn around, and it was being chased by a mink. There was a fun snow as a storyteller there, because we could look at the tracks and find where the hare was before we saw them, where they went after, and then we lost the trail. So not sure what happened to the rabbit, but. And then that other picture, down at one of our lakes here, there has been some signs of wolf prints. That one especially was found during a skiing class, and it was pretty near the beaver lodge we have down there, which could be a really awesome opportunity for students to maybe explore the relationship between the wolves and the beavers, tell some fun stories, try to explain where they come from, where they went, things like that. This one, my idea, it was kind of designing a like experiment here. For one, we can go look where icicles are already forming, have students measure them and see if there's any difference in icicles we find on different parts of the buildings. Also practices the measuring skills, because wow, I've had a lot of students need to work on that. But another idea I had was that students can come up with some kind of system that can create icicles outside, testing their engineering skills, seeing if they can kind of mimic nature in ways that icicles are created. Kind of as a challenge contest, who can create the biggest icicle would be pretty cool. And then tying it back to maybe some things that kids get really excited about, because I know I am an animal lover, and usually we can tie animals into it. We get a little more thoughts and imagination. But there are a lot of animals that have many different ways of adapting to the cold. I mean, animals don't all just leave Wolfridge in the winter. They have to do something to keep themselves alive. So students can research ways that animals stay warm in the cold. And then from there, they can try to use that research to inspire some kind of construction that can keep some bottle of water warm. So what I have in that picture, we use in a small mammals class here. Students fill it up with water. We get a before and after temperature, and we let that water bottle sit out for a while and try to see if what they construct keeps the heat for the animal. And I like this because it's showing that with their research, ways that nature can inspire their creations. Just gonna shiver for a second. Ooh, oh, chilly sitting this long. And my last one here is using snow as art. Because I know as science teachers, we really tend to get heavy on the science, and I really like letting the creative part of kids show. Snow sculptures, of course, is always such a fun one. Another one I found is snow painting. So I have one of these bottles I took from the Wolfridge Dining Hall, filled it with water and food coloring, and was drawing some pictures out in the snow. Bit of a disclaimer though, as I was drawing my picture, I thought, yellow is not the best color to use on this. You said at your own discretion, but just know as I was drawing it in the snow, I was like, this was not a good choice. So it's great to talk about all this stuff, right? I mean, I'm outside with 5 layers on right now. I can be out here for a while. And I know a lot of teachers start thinking, okay, that's great. Thanks for all this stuff. But how am I supposed to do this? And we really try to get this mindset of yes and instead of buts, because this is really possible for people to do as long as we take a couple steps to prepare for it. My biggest question that always comes up in any meeting I'm ever at usually comes around to gear. Click, Joe. Yes. So I always ask people when they have like classroom sets of these cool things and like, where do you get this? How does this happen? In terms of gear, I would say that there's some things to like stay clear of and things to push kids towards. For one, mittens are super great. We try to use and encourage mittens more instead of gloves, especially that pair of blue fluffy gloves on there. When I see kids walk into my class with those, I kind of like, oh no, because I know as soon as they start playing in this snow, we're gonna have clumped up snow on there. Now, what's really nice is I have 2 gloves on right now. Those gloves are great inside a mitten. I can do a little bit more with them, but we're always going to try to push waterproof as much as we can because dry hands are happy hands. Another one is boots that we can make sure toes wiggle in. So if we have some students that are maybe aging out of boots and have the ability to get more, if we can keep their toes wiggling, that's going to keep them warmer. Especially, I know people try to layer up socks. They end up putting too many socks on and all of a sudden their feet can't move and their toes get cold. And my last one on there is that people working outside are like onions. They need layers. I have 5 layers on right now for when I get cold, when I get hot. I want to have the ability to take them off. Another like great tip is being able to have a layer between your body and the ground, especially if you're giving a presentation outside, sitting on the ground for a while. I've got these Wolf Ridge foam pads. If you're ever teaching a fire making class, be sure to tell kids that these, burn. But just that little bit of layer really does make a difference in keeping my body a little warmer. And I'm a big proponent of like, how do we get kids with gear in their hands? Because there are kids without the access to these resources. And a lot of the people I've asked have told me that the way that they get gear is through grants, funding, maybe by the PTO, by other organizations in their town. That's usually a way that they can get kind of a classroom collection started, like a gear closet in their class for kids that don't have things. Otherwise, thrift stores are great options. Up in the Duluth area, we have a new gear exchange, really cheap gear that's really good quality. So any way that we can help kind of push kids to better gear and help them get stuff is a really good tool. Also, to stay warm, the longer kids sit here, the colder they're gonna get. Especially in a class we have like bird watching. We really try to alternate sitting at a bird feeder versus moving, because as soon as we sit for a long time, we're really gonna get cold. So some tricks to kind of stay warm. Number one is we always want to keep moving. As long as we can do a sitting, moving, it especially comes if you're trying to nature journal, like I said, bird watch. We want to alternate those things. But on there, I've got some penguin arms. So if you get students with cold fingers, what we can do is put our shoulders up and down, try to get the blood flowing there. My 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is having kids shake out their hands 5 times, 5 times. Kick your feet 5 times, each foot, then 4, 3, 2, 1. Usually it's like a fun dance, gets them moving. We can go big arm circles, get the blood moving, running, jumping jacks, a good old dance party, anything to get them moving a bit. Helps really keep the warmth going. But our last one, having a good outdoor session, really is going to come down to a positive mental attitude, our PMA. because sometimes being in the cold isn't super fun. But if we come out with a great attitude, especially us as instructors, we can really help our students have that PMA, have a great time being out in the snow and learning from it, not just sledding down it, which is pretty awesome. And I think that's all I've got on there. How are we doing on time, Joe?
We're doing great on time. This brings us the opportunity to kind of check the chat to see if people had written any questions in there. See if I can click on that. Oh my goodness. All right, so. And Anna, maybe you can help me too if you've been reading some of these here.
So there was one question about is there certain equipment requirements to be a National Weather Service station?
Joe, remember that's a question for you.
Is there? I'm sorry. As I was reading, I was listening.
Yep. No, so that special equipment for that national to be an official National Weather Service station.
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing is that we don't have Peter Harris with us. He is our weather guru, and I think that what I need to do is get that information and get back to you on that. There might be somebody else on here who could answer that, but I'm sure that if you contact the National Weather Service, that they have different protocols that they would suggest, and then also they have different trainings. Is there anybody on here who knows more about that, knows more details? There's a long pause. Yeah, and so I need to try to find more information about that. I apologize that I don't have that exact information.
And then, do you guys actually store those cans of spray that you use for the snowflakes outside, or do they freeze?
Yeah, we store them outside. Let's see. This is just okay, I've got 2 bottles in here. This one looks like it's about 100, so it's been outside for a while. But yeah, it's just the lacquer.
Yeah, clear lacquer. And what we've learned is that if you don't store it inside, when you take it outside, then it's warm enough that the snowflakes that fall in there melt right away, and you just get blobs of circles. And so what you want to do is you want to have it be as close to the temperature as the snowflakes that are falling down. So what happens is that snowflake just simply displaces some of that acrylic lacquer there, and then it is able to dry and harden, and that it keeps the shape of the snowflake in there. Yeah, and we've been doing that for years, as Emily just alluded to, that one can. Hey, you look like you're smiling out there. Good work.
That's a great face right now. Yeah.
There we go. Are there other questions? I'm not seeing other questions necessarily, or other things that folks have. I'm going to bring us to the gallery view here so I can see more. If there are things that people want to add, you can raise your hand, you can write something in the chat, whatever you feel comfortable with.
You can go ahead too and unmute yourself if you have other things to share as well. About how you've been doing outdoor learning with your students in the wintertime, if you have any tips and tricks. I really appreciated those. I'm always looking for more gear tricks and things like that. So I'm glad you shared that, because I think that is one of the biggest barriers we hear from people. How do you spell the Quincy for the house?
Yeah, I'm going to write that in here for you so I spell it properly. Q-C-H-E-E. There you go, Quincy. And I'm not exactly certain what language that is. I'm going to guess that it's up in the Yukon, up in the Northwest Territories, the native people there, but I'm not exactly certain.
Joe, maybe this is Danielle still on here?
She is.
At some point we talked about somewhere in a hidden Wolfridge folder, there's a how to build a Quincy, if anyone is interested in a video like that.
Oh, yeah. And then Danielle, we've got a video of building a Quincy, don't we?
We have made a video about building. in Quincy. We chose not to share it widely with the public just in case younger kids got it and then might not do it properly. But if it's shared with instructors who then want to lead that with a group of people, I say go for it.
Awesome. Thanks, Danielle.
When I was involved in building one, we put backpacks down and then covered the backpacks so that you had the beginning of an opening. But it looks like you just go ahead and pack all the snow. Did I understand that right?
Yeah, it's a team of, I think there was like maybe 24 of us out there with shovels. We pile it up and then have some people on snowshoes stand on top, kind of start packing it down. All of a sudden you see our whole pile kind of shift down a little bit.
And I'm looking for our video on our YouTube channel, so I'll put it in the chat when I can find it in our stuff. I'm very proud of the shots I took in it, so if you could look at that. But we use the porcupine method to build it, in the video at least, where you build the dome and then you measure out sticks, and they're sticking all out around it. And so that when you're digging out the inside, if you hit a stick, you stop. And that's how you know it's safe, because you're not making the walls too thin so that it won't collapse. But it's a really cool way to think about snow science and how it forms like a cement type of material.
And one of the things that we've learned over the years is that if you pile it and step on it and then start digging it too soon, it doesn't form that cement pile like Danielle was talking about. That it's best to pile it, step on it, and then it centers up and then overnight refreezes, maybe even 2 nights to totally refreeze, and then dig it out, and they can be really solid and last for most of the winter.
I think we let it sit this year for about a week before David started digging it out.
That's pretty solid.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Do you have any favorite animal track resources that you incorporate into your animal tracking course?
Ooh, we have a couple like just pretty simple guides that are laminated that get taken out and then pretty much get found in the spring when the snow melts. But yeah, anything, even just simple ideas of comparing hands, looking for toes, mainly just the experience of getting out there and guessing too, based on what's out there. That's what I really like students to do before I give them a guide, is to try to get them thinking of ideas of what it might be first. Because if we go right to the guide, then they look at it and think, oh, yep, move on. And the longer we let them kind of try to build up the story, the more they get into the mystery of it. It's pretty fun.
Yeah. And I know that Larry Wade has done one of these sessions with us last year during the winter and really focused on that. I'm sure, Anna, that the video of that and some of the resources that he used might be really amazing to be able to draw together. So we're going to try to link some of that as well, because Larry has spent a lot of time on interpreting tracks around the Twin Cities, especially.
Yeah, we can put those resources and move them up. And I'm going to put in the chat the Teach Outdoors winter page that we have. And I have pulled some of the sessions that we've done in the past that are kind of winter specific and put them on that winter page. So if you didn't get to view them, we've been doing this since of January of last year. And so there's a lot of sessions out there for additional professional development. And just thinking ahead too, with the shadows in the winter time with Groundhog's Day coming up, there's a Teach Outdoor session specific to that. So those are, I'll put the link in the chat so you can access those, and you can view them anytime.
Okay, video. Ooh, thanks, Danielle. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I was thinking about, you had talked about the icicles activities, and you mentioned the idea of having them construct their own ideas for how to create icicles. Are there any good supplies or loose parts that you have typically found are most helpful to have on hand when they're working on that?
Things I've brainstormed have been things like, what is that? The chipboard, trying out things like that. Maybe like straws, looking at tubing. Usually kids come up with better ideas than what I throw out there, because it is kind of a hard idea and to get the kind of motion set. But the more that I've only done it with kids like once thinking about the idea, we had varying success, but that was kind of based on temperatures that we were going off of it. Like as soon as we were doing it, it warmed up a lot. So it's like, oh, okay, that didn't work. But yeah, if anyone ever does that and comes up with some like awesome ideas, I'd love to hear back from that too, because that's something I've really been trying to just start out kind of rolling the wheel with.
Oh. So Alyssa? I think Alyssa is trying to talk, but the audio is not working. No, still can't hear you.
Yep, you can put it in the chat. That's good, Alyssa. Thank you. Now, I know you guys do snowshoeing, and that's something I think a lot of schools have access to snowshoes. Do you guys have any tips and tricks for snowshoeing with groups of students?
Oh man, liner gloves, because you're going to be tightening a lot of snowshoes.
That is a great tip.
Oh, seriously, I've given that one out a lot. So you're never going to want to tighten another snowshoe again after you bring a group of kids out there. The cool thing about snowshoes, the biggest like kind of push I do too, is utilizing them to the best of their ability and getting off pack trails with them. Kind of opens up a whole new world of exploration with snowshoes. So anytime we can get in deep, deep snow and travel not by exhausting ourselves through it, is pretty awesome tool for those. Or also if you can kind of come up with a collection of a bunch of different sizes of snowshoes just to compare the differences of them. You know, one kind of classroom set is pretty cool for kids to see the difference in the ability of different snowshoes. Different ones for trekking through the woods versus long straight paths, mountaineerings. I mean, you'd only need one to show it as a prop, but yeah, having different types for them to see that there's more options out there is pretty cool. Ooh, for kids that work best, I would say just bindings that can pull. Nothing that has to get like, we have some that have like the little metal piece that you have to like get it fit around, and it's just a hassle, it comes off. So anytime you can find really nice buckles or bindings that you just have to pull, those are really good with kids. And the good old have them, someone become an expert on putting the snowshoes on and helping everyone else, so you don't have to do everyone's snowshoes.
So here's Alyssa's comment. Finally, I can read it here. It says, I've been trying to make icicles. My idea was tying milk cartons up to a deck, a hole poked in the bottom, and having the kids fill them up. Unfortunately, I made the holes too big. I think you need a tiny hole, maybe from a push pin.
I'm going to try that. That sounds really cool. I think I'm going to try it with different kinds of containers, maybe. Different types of pins. That's going to be a project at the Nat House going on this week. I already feel it.
Yeah, it sounds like a great science idea, and different engineering practices right there as well. And I was actually thinking about the snowshoes, and that in our snowshoe classes over the years, some people have explored the idea of engineering practices and research to figure out what shape or size is able to hold the most weight without making as much of a depression. And that doesn't have to be a snowshoe, just literally some flat object that you use out there, like a piece of cardboard, and then taking that information and understanding better how snowshoes can distribute our weight. So I think that's a pretty cool thing that you can add. Rather than just using snowshoes to adventure, you can use them with engineering practices.
That also gets into tying it from snowshoes to engineering practices to how does nature use it, in terms of looking at like, oh, deer tracks go way in the snow versus animals that kind of float on top, checking out what their feet look like compared to their body size. That's a pretty cool connection too. My son went away.
Are you getting cold up there?
Just a little bit.
Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for being here. And when we reach the end so often here, I ask for new ideas. If you have ideas of sessions that you would like to see on Teach Outdoors Minnesota, put them in the chat. If you have ideas that you would like to see because you would like to lead it, put that in the chat and let us know it's you who's going to lead it, because our group gets stronger and stronger because we all contribute. And so realize that we're asking you to also provide some ideas. Now, Anna, I know that we've got a few schedules that are coming up. I wonder if you can alert us to the ones that are coming up next.
Yep. So next week we're gonna hop into. We've got a couple classroom teachers are going to be sharing about how do they do outdoor learning in the wintertime. So now that you've heard kind of the science of different activities you can do, now we're going to hear from some teachers about their tips and tricks and how they do it with their students. So we'll be visiting Jeffers Pond Elementary down in Prior Lake Savage area schools next week. And then the following week, we've got Larry Wade, and he's got a master naturalist joining him. And they're going to be talking about trees. So again, going to the science and kind of informing us about trees and different activities and ideas and things that we can do with trees with students. And then we'll be hopping to another school. So we don't have that one on the calendar yet, but there'll be another school. So our hope is to really feature kind of the inaction with teachers and how they're sharing their stories of how they do outdoor learning with their students. And then some of those other kind of science activities and kind of giving you the content knowledge and making those connections to curriculum and standards. And so we're trying to kind of balance it out that way. So if you're a teacher doing outdoor learning and you've got, if you're a teacher doing outdoor learning, you do have something to share because everybody does it a little bit differently. So even if you're brand new to it, we're asking for people to reach out to us and say, hey, you know what, I'll be willing to tell my story. You don't have to be doing this, have done this for many years. You just have to be someone who's been trying it and currently doing it with their students so that we can learn from you, hear what's working, and then have a conversation and have other people share what they're doing too. So please do reach out. Everybody is an expert and has something to share, and we all have something to learn from each other. So thank you for being here tonight. I got lots of great ideas from the chat. So if you have other resources and things like that related to winter, you can put it in the chat or you can email us at that Teach Outdoors email address, and then we'll add that to the website. We do have that winter page, so check that out as well, because that's got a lot of different resources specific to winter. So we'll add these ones to that page as well. Thank you, Emily, for freezing out there with us so that we can learn from you.
No problem. I think I'll meet you inside, Joe.
All right. Very good. Thank you, everybody. You have a great afternoon, great evening. And I'm going to copy the chat and we're going to look at this because I think we got a couple good ideas in there. Now it's just zipping right on by saying, woohoo, Emily, thank you. So I'll read all of that and we may be getting in touch with you. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.